like to know how to make a human eye in Mosaic? Well, you're in the right place. I'm Helen Miles and I'm here to teach you all the tips and tricks you need to make mosaics. This is the second of a two-part mini-series on making human eyes, and in this part we're going to be looking at the cutting and laying techniques for the eye. This is part two of making a mosaic eye. In part one, I explained how I chose my colours and particularly looked at the tonal differences between the different tesserae that I chose. And for this video, we're going to be looking at the cutting and the laying of the tesserae. So, as I explained in part one, I'm using purpose-made vitreous glass tiles, which are 4mm thick, and I'm going to be cutting them with Lepinit wheeled nippers. There is a separate video about tools and about materials, so look that up if you have any queries. And the white of the eye is going to have a little bit of Winckelmann's tile in it. So these are the unglazed ceramic tiles, and I'm going to be cutting them with a compound nipper. Again, all the information about materials and tools is on other videos, which I'll link in the description below. So the Winckelmanns, which are the same as Chinker are the name that they're called in America. Winckelmanns are 4mm deep, which is the same as the glass, so they can be mixed up together. I've transferred the design for the eye onto a 6mm board of Weddy board. So I've just transferred it with carbon paper onto the board and then traced around the transfer with a Sharpie so that the lines are nice and clear. So I'm all ready to go. I've also got some angled tweezers and some Tight Bond 2 premium wood glue, and I'll link a description of that particular type of glue in the description below, so that if you're interested in using it, you'll be able to find it easily. I'm going to start with the pupil, the centre of the eye. When you're doing representational mosaics, you always start with a focal point and move outward. So in this case, obviously, it's the pupil. And I'm using this deep black vitreous glass, and I could cut it into trapezoid shapes and maybe 4 or 5 to make the eye, the pupil rather. But I think it's easier just to actually cut a circle from this whole tile. So I'm cutting the corners off first, just nibbling away at them, and that's a rather odd shape it's come up with. And then I'm just going to carry on nibbling until I get a fairly decent circle. Okay, that's not too bad. It's not perfect, but no cut ever is perfect. And there it fits quite nicely in the pupil. What you need to remember is that your placement is going to be dictated by the tesserae, not by the design that you've drawn. So you can see this is a really good example. My circle is smaller than the circle that I've drawn, but it works in terms of the cutting, so therefore I'm leaving it and I'm placing it. Now I'm placing this variegated blue around the pupil, and I am going to use keystones for this. So a keystone, there is another separate video about keystones. It's basically a square with the two diagonal sides cut in. That's not a perfect one, but it gives you an idea of the shape that I'm talking about. And the reason you use keystones is when you're doing a circle, it means you can fit them neatly into each other and you don't have big gaps. So one thing I always stress when I'm teaching people is not to try and make your tesserae perfect. You can get really hung up on it when your head is down and you're cutting away and you think, oh look, I mean that is just not a perfect, not a perfect keystone. But when it's placed and when it's glued, the imperfections just get completely lost. So don't worry about them. So I think I'm going to glue those and then move forward with the rest of the eye. Now I'm going to do the eyelid, which goes along there with this slightly variegated speckly brown, and there's a little bit here as well. And I'm just going to cut now, I'm just going to cut regular squares, so 1/4 of the tile. And the reason I've chosen to do the eyelid now as opposed to the whites now is because the eyelid will act as a kind of ballast in order to get the nice shape of the white really, well, nicely next to it or under it. So that's why I've decided to do it this way. And the line is slightly tapered, so these are going to be a little bit fatter at this end. And then taper down to here. I'm moving on to the white around the eye, and I'm doing half concentric circles. So I'm laying the rose radiating out from the pupil and the centre of the eye. My next line is a mid-tone, and I had chosen this grey, this grey for it. But actually I've done a little bit of a rejig, and I'm going to use both of these colours in this line and use this colour for this area. I'm always doing that, sorry folks. It's just a question of playing around as I work, rethinking, deciding I don't like something, deciding something could be better that I'd already decided. I think that's part of the process really, and if you're too static then it's not really a creative process. So anyway, here I go with my next mid-tone, which is a mix, and again a little bit of tapering on this line. So I'm going to have this colour more towards this inner corner, and then that more over here. So you can see I'm really jutting out into the next line there. In fact, I think I probably ought to rein myself in and go more tapered. I'll take these two guys out and go thinner. So it gives me more scope to taper. So when you're mixing colours, you don't want to suddenly go from one colour to the next. So you start introducing your new colour gradually. So I'm just going to put a random piece of the new colour in here. Go back to my grey. Yeah, and I think if I had more space, if I was doing a longer line, I'd do more graduating, but because I haven't got much space, I'm not going to do it. So I've now moved to this colour, the sort of lilac, and maybe one more bit of grey will go in here. I'm moving on now to the highlight underneath the eyebrow, and I chose this colour earlier and I'm going to stick with it. It's a grey as well, but a kind of creamy grey. Last but not least, the eyebrow. So more tapering going on, using this dark purpley colour, which blends in well with the purples that we've already used, and the variegations in the blue in the middle, which has got a bit of purple hidden in there. There you have it, a mosaic eye. You know what? Something is really bothering me about this. And I hope you can spot it too. It's that blasted triangle. It's just too triangle-y. I have done a separate videos about triangles in mosaics and the hazards and the importance of them. And I'm always breaking my own rules. Anyway, that's a pointy triangle, and I'm just going to take the tip off, and it becomes instantly less intrusive. So lots more about triangles in that separate video, which I'll link below as well. Okay, let's just get that right. Yeah, so if you like this video and you'd like to see more, then please subscribe below.